Hello and welcome to the Beyond Shakespeare exploring sessions. I am your host, Robert Crighton, and I am here to guide you and these fabulous readers through the world of the Spanish tragedy. Previously on the Spanish tragedy, we have encountered a war between Spain and Portugal due to the fabulous diplomacy of one Andrea. Andrea sadly did not survive the encounter, dying in slightly conflicting accounts as to precisely how he died, depending on whether you were following the first part of Hieronimo or whether you were following the account at the very opening of the Spanish tragedy itself. Today we are going from Act 1, Scene 4. We did the opening scenes of the play last time. So Andrea has met up with revenge and he's sitting down to watch on television. He's in supernatural lockdown to watch what happens in the world outside of his own lifespan, as revenge will be meted out, in theory, upon the people who wronged him in life. In the court of Spain, battle has been won, and the Portugal's proud son Balthazar has been captured by either Horatio or Lorenzo, TBA, who got the winning tabs on that one. Meanwhile, over in Portugal, the court is all a bit sad that they lost and they're going to lose all their money, and things aren't desperately going well. Some court intrigue also occurred, which we may pick up today. If you wish more information, please go back and watch the previous video. However, today we have a fabulous team of readers, some new, some who've been here before, and I will introduce you to them now. So, reading Lorenzo and Castile is...
Hi, I'm Alan Scott. I'm based in Suffolk, and unlike many of the others, I'm not a professional actor.
And reading Horatio, Andrea, and First Nobleman.
Hello, I'm Sarah. I am a professional actor for my sins, writer and director, and I run a little audiobook company called Sounds Curious.
And reading the potentially star attraction for this play, reading Hieronimo, also Revenge and a Second Nobleman, is...
Hi, I'm William Sutton. I'm an actor and I'm based in Amsterdam.
And reading Bellimperia and Alexandro is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian, mainly studying Star Chamber Elizabeth.
And reading the ambassador and Isabella is...
Hi, I'm Tamara. I'm also a professional actor, and usually I'm based in London, but I'm currently in lockdown in Germany.
And new to the group, we have reading Balthazar and Villuppo is...
Hi, I'm Ruth. I'm based in St. Louis, Missouri in the Midwest, and I'm not a professional actor. Pleased to be part of the group.
Fabulous. And finally, reading the King and Viceroy, the alternate potentates, depending on which country we happen to be in at the time, is...
Hi, I'm Tom. I am a director of mostly of mystery plays based in York. I'm not an actor, but I do love to read medieval and early modern plays.
Excellent. And as I hopefully mentioned earlier, I'm Robert Crighton, and I am reading Pedringano and occasional stage directions and interchange of occasional comments. We will begin our reading today with Act 1, Scene 4. We'll probably get about halfway through before I'm going to pause for thought, probably about before the entrance of the king, because there's a nice little self-contained little bit of action and dialogue here, as enter Horatio and Bellimperia.
Signor Horatio, this is the place and hour wherein I must entreat thee to relate the circumstance of Don Andrea's death, who living was my garland's sweetest flower, and in his death hath buried my delights.
For love of him and service to yourself, I nill refuse this heavy, doleful charge, yet tears and sighs, I fear, will hinder me. When both our armies were enjoined in fight, your worthy chevalier, amidst the thickest, for glorious cause still aiming at the fairest, was at the last by young Don Balthazar encountered hand to hand. Their fight was long, their hearts were great, their clamours menacing, their strength alike, their strokes both dangerous. But wrathful Nemesis, that wicked power, envying at Andrea's praise and worth, cut short his life to end his praise and worth. She herself, disguised in armour's mask, as Pallas was before proud Pergamos, brought in a fresh supply of halberdiers, which paunched his horse and dinged him to the ground. Then young Don Balthazar, with ruthless rage, taking advantage of his foe's distress, did finish what his halberdiers begun, and left not till Andrea's life was done. Then, though too late, incensed with just remorse, I with my band set forth against the prince, and brought him prisoner from his halberdiers.
Wouldst thou hadst slain him that so slew my love, but then was Don Andrea's carcass lost?
No, that was it for which I chiefly strove, nor stepped I back till I recovered him. I took him up and wound him in my arms, and wielding him unto my private tent, there laid him down and dewed him with my tears, and sighed and sorrowed as became a friend. But neither friendly sorrow, sighs, nor tears could win pale death from his usurped right. Yet this I did, and less I could not do. I saw him honoured with due funeral. This scarf I plucked from off his lifeless arm, and wear it in remembrance of my friend.
I know the scarf, and would he had kept it still. For had he lived, he would have kept it still, and worn it for his Bell'imperia's sake, for 'twas my favour at his last depart. But now wear thou it both for him and me, for after him thou hadst deserved it best. But for thy kindness in his life and death, be sure, while Bellimperia's life endures, she will be Don Horatio's thankful friend.
And Madam, Don Horatio will not slack, humbly to serve fair Bellimperia. But now, if your good liking stand thereto, I'll crave your pardon to go seek the prince, for so the Duke, your father, gave me charge.
Aye, go, Horatio. Leave me here alone, for solitude best fits my cheerless mood.
And exit Horatio.
Yet, what avails to wail Andrea's death? From whence Horatio proves my second love. Had he not loved Andrea as he did, he could not sit in Bellimperia's thoughts. But how can love find harbour in my breast till I revenge the death of my beloved? Yes, second love shall further my revenge. I'll love Horatio, my Andrea's friend, the more to spite the prince that wrought his end. And where Don Balthazar that slew my love himself now pleads for favour at my hands, he shall in rigour of my just disdain reap long repentance for his murderous deed. For what was else but murderous cowardice? So many to oppress one valiant knight, without respect of honour in the fight. And here he comes, that murdered my delight.
Enter Lorenzo and Balthazar.
Sister, what means this melancholy walk?
That for a while I wish no company.
But here the prince is come to visit you.
That argues that he lives at liberty.
No, madam, but in pleasing servitude.
Your prison then, belike, is your conceit.
Aye, by conceit my freedom is enthralled.
Then with conceit, enlarge yourself again.
What, if conceit have laid my heart to gauge?
Pay that you borrow and recover it.
I'd die if it returned from whence it lies.
A heartless man, and live. A miracle.
Aye, lady, love can work such miracles.
Tush, tush, my lord. Let go these unbodies, and in plain terms acquaint her with your love.
What boots complaint when there's no remedy?
Yes, to your gracious self must I complain, in whose fair answer lies my remedy, on whose perfection all my thoughts attend, on whose aspect mine eyes find beauty's bower, in whose translucent breast my heart is lodged.
Alas, my lord, these are but words of course, and but devised to drive me from this place.
She, in going in, lets fall her glove, which Horatio, coming out, takes up.
Madam, your glove.
Thanks. Good Horatio, take it for thy pains.
Signor Horatio stooped in happy time.
I reaped more grace than I deserved or hoped.
My lord, be not dismayed for what is past. You know that women oft are humorous. These clouds will blow with little wind. Let me alone. I'll scatter them myself. Meanwhile, let us devise to spend the time in some delightful sports and revelling.
The king, my lords, is coining hither straight to feast the Portugal ambassador. Things were in readiness before I came.
Then here it fits us to attend the king, to welcome hither our ambassador, and learn my father and my country's health.
And there we will pause. That's a fascinating little scene. We've mention of the scarf, from which we did find remnants of in the first part of Hieronimo, and that seems very, very closely connected. There doesn't seem to be any confusion there. Has some time passed, do we think? Because Balthazar seems to have been doing a little bit of wooing before this scene. It sort of suggested that he's been doing this for more than a few days or something. That he's been about for a while.
She does seem surprised, though, that he's there. I mean, you know, when Lorenzo says, "Oh, the prince," and she's like, "Oh, he's at liberty, is he?" Which makes me think that because Lorenzo's got him in charge, hasn't he? So he must have only just turned up at their house. If she's surprised to see him,
I think she's saying she's surprised because she wants to emphasize that he's actually a prisoner.
Oh, yeah.
I think anything she can find to put him down within the bounds of politeness, she will.
She's quite spicy, isn't she? I like her. She's like...
Well, it's the thing. Is this what is this scene? You know, could we call it a love scene? Because what are Bellimperia's motivations for love towards Horatio? They don't seem awfully... I'll love Horatio, my Andrea's friend, the more to spite the prince.
Yeah. She's like, She really doesn't like him, and it's like,
What, and she has a good reason to. And why does Balthazar think he's got a hope in? I mean, it's a really interesting situation that's being played out here, and I find it really fascinating. Thoughts.
I think Balthazar is very much the ego has landed. He thinks that the sun shines out of his fundament.
Oh yeah, I like that. Ego has landed. Yeah, that's that. I think that makes a lot of sense because he's not an out-and-out villain or anything, is he? He's just some bloke at the moment.
He's just he's a posh lad who thinks he's entitled. I couldn't think of any possible modern political equivalents.
Yeah. So Horatio, in this respect. Who is he in this because he's there to talk about the death of his friend. Is he wooing her? Is there a connection there? What is going on?
I didn't feel when I was reading the speech like I was wooing her. I felt like I was dispensing my duty by telling her what happened to her love. Although after she lets him keep the glove, there's a moment of like, whoa, what just happened? Like,
is that when he twigs?
I think that's when he twigs.
Yeah, because you got the scarf and then you've got the glove as well.
Yeah.
you know, which are very much tokens of that state of that time, aren't they?
Yes, you've got essentially an exchange of tokens, haven't you? Yeah, so you've got a visual aspect to this that we're not quite fully getting because we're reading words. That's quite powerful, actually. That's really clever. But the court is still going on around it as well, because you've got what's happening with Balthazar. Well, there's an ambassador just about to come in, so get out the Ferrero Rocher. Any additional thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I have one. Some of these rhyming couplets are just a nightmare.
Right.
Like basically you've got when you're reading them, you read a sentence and then, the next sentence is pretty much the same sentence again. And I don't know why, but I did just notice it when I was reading it. I tripped over a couple. So yeah, he doesn't just repeat the same rhyme at the end of the word. He'll actually repeat half of the sentence will be the same as the sentence before. And I don't know why.
Well, it's one of the things that he was very much mocked for later.
Oh, yeah.
With
good reason.
It's one of those rhetorical devices that you do get trotted out, and if you do it too much, then I think mockery is richly deserved. I think that's fair. But again, that's what blue pencil is for. If they keep an excess in, then that's what you're asking for at the end of the day. But it doesn't mean to say it's not effective. It depends what the effect we're looking to get, or the effect. But yes, it's not always easy to land a repetition at the end of a line in that way. It's easier to do it when the repetition's at the beginning. As you can use it as a launching pad forward as opposed to a sort of ending point. Any additional thoughts?
I took it that this scene was setting up Balthazar and Horatio as, as kind of in opposition to each other, and that's the purpose of doing it. But I didn't look at the early bits, so.
I mean,
fall in love so quickly.
I think you've got a triangle there in some ways, because you've got Horatio and Lorenzo, who are already not quite at explicit daggers drawn, but are pretty damn close to it. And I suspect we're going to see some action with each of them trying to get Balthazar on their side, so you get a 2 against 1 in whichever permutation.
Interesting thought. Tamara, I think you were going to say something.
Well, I just find it interesting that it can't have been that long that Bellimperia pretty much lost her love, so to speak. And already you've got basically 2 characters who are set up to be interested in her. I just find that a little bit interesting, because it's almost like, yep, he's dead.
Next.
Moving on.
Well, they weren't married or anything, were they? They were just sweethearts, weren't it? I think
Were they not engaged?
Well, it's difficult to tell because of the nature of the previous play. But I don't know whether the logic of this play is that they were actually, in that sense that there's a marriage market available here, and there will be pressures and eligibility questions.
She's just goods to be sold, really, from Lorenzo's perspective, isn't she? So.
Yeah. And questions of overweening families trying to control women's destinies will turn up in other plays. Other plays are available for this theme. Okay, I think we'll move forward to finish this scene off. So we're going to have the entrance of the king and ambassador. King of Spain's going to come in. There's enter the banquet, and there's of course the obligatory trumpets. Go King.
See, Lord Ambassador, how Spain entreats fair prisoner Balthazar, thy Viceroy's son. We pleasure more in kindness than in wars.
Sad is our king, and Portugal laments, supposing that Don Balthazar is slain.
So am I, slain by beauty's tyranny. You see, my lord, how Balthazar is slain. I frolic with the Duke of Castile's son, wrapped every hour in pleasures of the court and graced with favours of his majesty.
Put off your greetings till our feast be done. Now, come and sit with us and taste our cheer.
And they sit to the banquet.
Sit down, young prince. You are our second guest. Brother, sit down, and nephew, take your place. Signor Horatio, wait thou upon our cup, for well them hast deserved to be honoured. Our lordings fall too. Spain is Portugal, and Portugal is Spain. We both are friends. Tribute is paid, and we enjoy our right. But where is old Hieronimo, our marshal? He promised us, in honour of our guest, grace our banquet with some pompous jest.
Enter Hieronimo with a drum and 3 knights, each with a scutcheon. Then he fetches 3 kings. The knights take their crowns and them captive.
Hieronimo, this mask contents mine eye, although I sound not well the mystery.
The first armed knight that hung his scutcheon up was
And he
English,
takes the scutcheon and he gives it to the king.
was English Robert, Earl of Gloucester, who, when King Stephen bore sway in Albion, arrived with 25,000 men in Portugal, and by successive war enforced the king, then but a Saracen, to bear the yoke of the English monarchy.
My lord of Portugal, by this you see that which may comfort both your king and you, and make your late discomfort seem the less. But say, Hieronimo, what was the next?
The second knight that hung his scutcheon up was
And he repeats the action as he did before.
was Edmund, Earl of Kent in Albion, when English Richard wore the diadem. He came likewise and razed Lisbon walls and took the King of Portugal in fight, for which and other such like service done, he after was created Duke of York.
This is another special argument that Portugal may deign to bear our yoke, when it by little England have been yoked. And now, Hieronimo, what was the last?
The third and last, not least in our account,
And he does as he did before.
was, as the rest, a valiant Englishman, brave John of Gaunt, the Duke of Lancaster, as by his scutcheon plainly may appear. He with a puissant army came to Spain and took our King of Castile prisoner.
This is an argument for our Viceroy, that Spain may not insult for her success, since English warriors likewise conquered Spain and made them bow their knees to Albion.
Hieronimo, I drink to thee for this device, which hath pleased both the ambassador and me. Pledge me, Hieronimo, if thou love thy king.
Takes the cup of Horatio.
My lord, I fear we sit but overlong, unless our dainties were more delicate, but welcome our yon to the best we have. Now let us in, that you may be dispatched. I think our council is already set.
And exeunt all. Fascinating bit of mini civic pageantry here. It's very reminiscent of the kind of things you would have at the Lord Mayor's show, or any kind of entrance of a king or queen. Of here is a little presentation, a little dumb show happens. Here's a little moral message. Someone does a little speech. Hieronimo explains the dumb show afterwards. But it's the kind of visual and language and text that people would have seen in their own lives at the time. It's a very there's a lot of texts that do this. And we're looking at some civic pageantry later in the year on the podcast. I'm just throwing that in. So it sort of really leaps out at you. I love all this stuff. The King of Spain going, "We are all friends now," and everyone's going, "Yes, yes, we are. Can you see my lips move?" This is such a wonderful bit of politics. I love all of this. And everyone's trying to interpret the meaning of the political message that Hieronimo, the old, I wonder about the meaning of pompous here as well. Is Hieronimo supposed to come across as as a bit pompous. Is that affectionate or
I'm
not?
No. I think it's to do. I think it's to do with pomp rather than being pompous. I don't think it's a pejorative word here. I could be wrong.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I was setting that up to be knocked down.
Delighted to be of assistance.
Thoughts from the room. Thoughts from the room about that little closing. We've gone from a very intimate to a much more wider, but there's relationships dancing around all over the place here.
I'm just wondering, in fact, whether what we've got is a situation that we've misperceived Hieronimo previously. I know his description is Marshal of Spain, but the wording in this almost makes him seem like he's upper class court jester, almost, with this thing of he's the one who's providing the entertainment, which may have some resonance back to the discussion we had yesterday about the opening speech, where it's the general who gives the report of the battle rather than Hieronimo.
Yeah, I think Helen's point last time about it being an honorific type, not actually having any weight. He's just about the court organising things, and that the term doesn't have a martial quality to it at all. Anyway, newcomers, how are you finding this first scene that you've experienced?
It's quite interesting, I think, that they have all of the sort of pageantry is based around England. A bit of a shout out to the audience.
Right.
We don't have just sort of random invasions of sort of Portugal and Spain, but it's all based on their relationship to England. Bit of a shout out there. And obviously sort of wondering as well how much of this is based off a large scale sort of mask, or whether it is actually just a sort of a few people troop in, a few people troop out, or sort of how big that moment with the three knights is.
That's true, because it's stage direction, it's very peremptory, but it could be quite elaborate.
I found it quite interesting because there were moments in this section that really made me smile because there was a slight absurdity to them. The fact that you've got, the first night is presented and the Spanish king is interpreting and, oh yes, well, this should give you comfort, remembering that Portugal got squashed. And then the second one comes out, he's like, oh yes, here we go, Portugal's squashed again. And then the third one comes out, it's like, oh, and now Spain's being squashed. There was something about it that did remind me quite a lot of Hieronimo or Geronimo. And it did just make me think for a moment, actually, I wonder, is there room for that level of absurdity that we saw in the first play? Was perhaps some of that absurdity, was it perhaps in the original Kid? How much of the burlesque was put on over the top? Was there maybe some there? Because it seems from this that he does have a capacity at least to, if not go the full hog, to at least inject some humour into what he's writing.
There's a big question I think we shouldn't risk answering now because I think we're a bit too early in the text. It's a very good question. I think we should pick it up. I think it's a very good point about what tonally is happening with Hieronimo, especially with later events and what that does in terms of eliciting an audience response. I think it's an excellent question. Reminders of it perhaps at the end of this session or maybe tomorrow. It's a really, really good point. The act isn't quite over. We still have a brief reintroduction of our favourite cheerful team from the underworld out in the Elysian fields around the television set. Andrea is watching with revenge the end of season 1 of the Spanish tragedy. So, Andrea and revenge, please.
Come we for this from depth of underground to see him feast that gave me my death's wound? These pleasant sights are sorrow to my soul. Nothing but league and love and banqueting.
Be still, Andrea. Ere we go from hence, I'll turn their friendship into fell despite, their love to mortal hate, their day to night, their hope into despair, their peace to war, their joys to pain, their bliss to misery.
So we've just been taken out of this action. We might have been getting into the plot, feeling ourselves brought into the court. And then, of course, as everyone's having this lovely banquet, we get reminded where we started the evening. Not for long, but just a little reminder that we're here for revenge. That's the purpose of this. I don't want to stop too long on this one. We've got more revenge coming up later, so they will return. I think, however, we should plough into Act 2. So if you have any exciting thoughts about what we just read, hold on to them. We will come back. So Act 2, Scene 1. Enter Lorenzo and Balthazar, who seem quite chummy. The second time they've entered together. So let's see how they're getting on.
My lord, though Bellimperia seem thus coy, let reason hold you in your wonted joy. In time the savage bull sustains the yoke. In time all haggard hawks will stoop to lure. In time small wedges cleave the hardest oak. In time the flint is pierced with softest shower. And she in time will fall from her disdain, and rue the sufferance of your friendly pain.
No, she is wilder and more hard withal than beast or bird or tree or stony wall. Wherefore blot I Bellimperia's name? It is my fault, not she, that merits blame. My feature is not to content her sight. My words are rude and work her no delight. The lines I send her are but harsh and ill, such as do drop from Pan and Marcia's quill. My presents are not of sufficient cost, and being worthless, all my labours lost. Yet might she love me for my valiancy, aye, but that's slandered by captivity. Yet might she love me to content her sire, aye, but her reason masters his desire. Yet might she love me as her brother's friend, aye, but our hopes aim at some other end. Yet might she love me to uprear her state, aye, but perhaps she hopes some nobler mate. Yet might she love me as her beauty's thrall, aye, but I fear she cannot love at all.
My lord, for my sake leave this ecstasy, and doubt not but we'll find some remedy. Some cause there is that lets you not be loved. First that must be known, and then removed. What if my sister loves some other knight?
My summer's day will turn to winter's night.
I have already found a stratagem to sound the bottom of this doubtful theme. My lord, for once you shall be ruled by me. Hinder me not, whate'er you hear or see. By force or fair means will I cast about, to find the truth of all this question out. Ho, Pedringano!
Signor?
Viens che pesto!
Hath your lordship any service to command me?
Aye, Pedringano, service of import, and not to spend the time in trifling words. Thus stands the case. It is not long, thou knowest, since I did shield thee from my father's wrath, for thy conveyance in Andrea's love, for which thou wert adjudged a punishment. I stood betwixt thee and thy punishment, and since thou knowest how I have favoured thee, now to these favours will I add reward, not with fair words, but store of golden coin, and lands and living joined with dignities, if thou but satisfy my just demand. Tell truth, and have me for thy lasting friend.
Whate'er it be your lordship shall demand, my bounden duty bids me tell the truth. If case it lie in me to tell the truth.
Then, Pedringano, this is my demand. Whom loves my sister Bellimperia? For she reposeth all her trust in thee. Speak, man, and gain both friendship and reward. I mean, whom loves she in Andrea's place?
Alas, my lord, since Don Andrea's death, I have no credit with her as before, and therefore know not if she love or no.
Nay, if thou dally, then I am thy foe.
Oh, yes. Stage direction there. Draws his sword. It's not going well for poor Pedringano, is it? Ah!
And fear shall force what friendship cannot win. Thy death shall bury what thy life conceals. Thou diest for more esteeming her than me.
Oh, stay, my lord.
Yet speak the truth, and I will guerdon thee, and shield thee from whatever can ensue, and will conceal whate'er proceeds from thee. But if thou dally once again, thou diest.
If Madam Bellimperia be in love...
What, villain? Ifs and ands?
Stay, my lord, she loves Horatio.
What, Don Horatio? Our Knight Marshal's son?
Even him, my lord.
Now say, but how knowest thou he is her love? And thou shalt find me kind and liberal. Stand up, I say, and fearless tell the truth.
She sent him letters, which myself perused, full fraught with lines and arguments of love, preferring him before Prince Balthazar.
Swear on this cross that what thou sayest is true, and thou wilt conceal what thou hast told.
I swear to both by him that made us all.
In hope thine oath is true, here's thy reward. But if I prove thee perjured and unjust, this very sword whereon thou tookst thine oath shall be the worker of thy tragedy.
What I have said is true, and shall for me be still concealed from Bellimperia. Besides, your honour's liberality deserves my duteous service, even unto death.
Let this be all that thou shalt do for me. Be watchful when and where these lovers meet, and give me notice in some secret sort.
I will, my lord.
Then shalt thou find that I am liberal. Thou knowest that I can more advance thy state than she. Be therefore wise and fail me not. Go and attend her as thy custom is, lest absence make her think thou dost amiss.
And exit Pedringano.
Why so? Tam armis quam ingenio. Where words prevail not, violence prevails. But gold doth more than either of them both. How likes Prince Balthazar this stratagem?
Both well and ill. It makes me glad and sad. Glad that I know the hinder of my love, sad that I fear she hates me whom I love. Glad that I know on whom to be revenged, sad that she'll fly me if I take revenge. Yet must I take revenge, or die myself, for love resisted grows impatient. I think Horatio be my destined plague. First, in his hand he brandished a sword, and with that sword he fiercely waged war, and in that war he gave me dangerous wounds, and by those wounds he forced me to yield, and by my yielding I became his slave. Now in his mouth he carries pleasing words, which pleasing words do harbour sweet conceits, which sweet conceits are lined with sly deceits, which sly deceits smooth Bellimperia's ears, and through her ears dive down into her heart, and in her heart set them, where I should stand. Thus hath he ta'en my body by his force, and now by sleight would captivate my soul. But in his fall I'll tempt the destinies, and either lose my life or win my love.
Let's go, my lord. Your staying stays revenge. Do you but follow me and gain your love, her favour must be won by his remove.
Ooh, the plot thickens by the end of that scene. I really like the rhetorical work here. The sad, glad, and I like those ands. It's forcing his thoughts onwards. It is a little contrived, but I think that there I really liked what the language is doing. It gives it a lovely impetus. Yes, I didn't read a stage direction. Balthazar starts back at the news of Horatio. so he's somewhat taken aback by that. I mean, how could he be taken aback? Surely he twigged from the previous scene. I mean,
he knows already. Yes.
no. And of course, when he's talking about swearing on a cross, he's holding a sword. We have the visual cross there, physically occurring. Thoughts about that scene? I had a lot of fun with that scene. There is a little bit of humour in there, but it's within context humour. It's not mocking humour. It's that servant relationship thing that I really enjoyed.
I mean, it's reinforcing the fact that Lorenzo is an absolute shit.
He is a bit, isn't he? He's a bit. Tamara, I saw a hand.
I just love the fact that you have this back and forth between Lorenzo and his servant, and Balthazar seems to just sort of stand back and watch the whole thing. Which visually, I think, makes the whole scene even funnier if you just picture him sort of standing there, just watching the whole thing.
Well, Balthazar is very ineffectual, but he is in this position. He has no agency at all anymore. He is this man's prisoner. This man is doing a lot of work to give him what he wants, but it's that speech where Balthazar is trying to oh, if only I had money, if only I had this, and only I if I was her brother's friend. Well, we'll pass on that point.
I mean, like you, I felt at first that Balthazar's speeches are very mannered. The earlier one where he's going, yet might she love me, but that's not going to happen. And the way he kind of swings between these poles, he's like a very Petrarchan lover, the idea of things being both glad and sad and so on. And I think that it actually does build up very well. And particularly that last speech of his is pretty effective, going from, wounds to yielding to conceits, deceits, and so on, and the kind of depths of despair that he's in because Bellimperia doesn't love him. And I think it's pretty well done.
It's not excessive. I think it's just very effective, and it's something that Balthazar seems to be doing in this scene as well. It seems to be a character thing, that use of language.
I was going to say it is a character thing, I think, because the very fact of the contrivance tells you something about him and who he is and how his mind works, because I think I said yesterday that he's a bit of an arse, and he's just and what Alan was saying earlier about him being this really sort of super entitled posh boy, it's just, you can see it there. It's like, oh, I could do this, oh, but then I know, and then I could do this, oh no, that's not going to work. And he's just so clueless. He's just so kind of convinced of his own claims, and yet totally clueless about how to affect them. I just thought it was rather marvelous that, it really added to his character. I felt it was a character choice in the writing.
He's overeducated. Helen is coming in. That sense it's all language, and he doesn't seem to have the tools for coping without stuff going on. Helen.
Yeah, this is just from an early modern point of view. Balthazar is a far more appropriate and advantageous marriage.
Yeah.
Yes, actually, that's
to someone of. I mean, she's a king's niece, and Balthazar is a highly appropriate and diplomatically, and for her I mean, everything is right about that marriage.
Yeah, and he can't understand why it isn't.
Yes.
That's
yes.
And maybe there are things being manoeuvred that this marriage should be happening, and that there is pressure. It's not mentioned by the king or anything, but maybe that sort of, well, if we just tie up this little war with a bit of a marriage at the end, that would all be really neat and tidy, wouldn't it? That would make this a comedy, not a tragedy. Okay, I think we'll move forward unless anyone has additional thoughts. Okay, we move into scene 2 of Act 2. Enter Horatio and Bellimperia, and in a moment, Pedringano and Balthazar and Lorenzo are coming back in again, so it's very much a continuation of action in many ways. So enter Horatio and Bellimperia.
Now, madam, Since by favour of your love our hidden smoke is turned to open flame, and that with looks and words we feed our thought, two chief contents where more cannot be had. Thus in the midst of love's fair blandishments, why show you sign of inward languishments?
And Pedringano showeth all to the prince Balthazar, and Lorenzo placing them in secret, possibly above.
My heart, sweet friend, is like a ship at sea. She wisheth port, where riding all at ease, she may repair what stormy times have worn, and leaning on the shore may sing with joy, that pleasure follows pain, and bliss annoy. Possession of thy love is the only port, wherein my heart with fears and hopes long tossed, each hour doth wish and long to make resort, there to repair the joys that it hath lost. And, sitting safe, to sing in Cupid's choir, that sweetest bliss is crown of love's desire.
O sleep mine eyes, see not my love profaned. Be deaf my ears, bear not my discontent. Die, heart, another joy's what thou deservest.
Watch still mine eyes to see this love disjoined. Hear still mine eyes to hear them both lament. Live, heart, to joy at fond Horatio's fall.
Why stands Horatio speechless all this while?
The less I speak, the more I meditate.
But whereon dost thou chiefly meditate?
On dangers past, and pleasures to ensue.
On pleasures past and dangers to ensue.
What dangers and what pleasures dost thou mean?
Dangers of war, and pleasures of our love.
Dangers of death, but pleasures none at all.
Let dangers go, thy war shall be with me, but such a war as breaks no bond of peace. Speak thou fair words, I'll cross them with fair words. Send thou sweet looks, I'll meet them with sweet looks. Write loving lines, I'll answer loving lines. Give me a kiss, I'll countercheck thy kiss. Be this our warring peace, or peaceful war.
But gracious madam, then appoint the field, where trial of this war shall first be made.
Ambitious villain, how his boldness grows.
Thou then be thy father's pleasant bower, the field, where first we vowed a mutual amity. The court were dangerous, that place is safe. Our hour shall be when vesper gins to rise, that summons home distressful travellers. There none shall hear us but the harmless birds. Haply the gentle nightingale shall carol us asleep ere we beware, and singing with the prickle at her breast, tell our delight and mirthful dalliance. Till then, each hour will seem a year or more.
But honey, sweet and honourable love, return we now into your father's sight. Dangerous suspicion waits on our delight.
Aye, danger mixed with jealous despite shall send thy soul into eternal night.
So these two scenes actually really do run into each other. The gap that Horatio gives at the beginning with his short speech is just really long enough for them to get up the steps to overhear the action and comment on it as it goes. Anyone get the impression that Bellimperia is really doing all the running here? She's really prodding Horatio to. Do you want to do some wooing of me, or no? I'm gonna. Shall we meet in the bower? Yeah, let's meet in the bower. That'd be fab. Can you hear that from the back? We're meeting in the bower. Plot. And of course, just because it is a dark and serious play doesn't mean that there aren't room for audience laughter, if not necessarily comic laughter in the sense of we've got these asides coming out which are doing wordplay, where it's it's very much to the audience. This is they're doing sweet nothings, but we're planning evil things, and I'm interested about what the audience response for that might be. Thoughts about that little scenette?
I'm sure the audience response would be laughter. I mean, those, you've got these oblivious lovers in the foreground, and then you've got these, these characters, these henchmen in the background. It was absurd, really. I loved it. It reminded me a bit of 1960s Batman. I had visions of like the Penguin and the Joker, and they're all crouched in the corner, and Batman and Robin are having a little moment together, and they're like, yes, we're going to get them. It was just, I thought it was really, really funny, but maybe that's just me and my twisted sense of humour. I don't know.
Well, it doesn't mean it's not a serious scene, but in that sense, it's actually quite a lovely love scene in a sense. I mean, I was joking about who's doing all the running, and it's perfectly fine. Bellimperia is doing the running, but it's actually quite touching, and I think there's a lot there, and lots of kisses are available in the way you staged this.
I have to highlight probably one of the worst rhymes that's ever happened on the planet Earth: blandishments and languishments.
Oh, I think it's fab. I know. I'm going to stand up for that one.
But other than that, what I am thinking is that there's an incredible amount of sonnety type language coming in.
Yes.
If you think of this is actually pre or just at the point when the sonnets are actually sonnets craze is happening, from sort of 91 until 94, 95. And that's when it's just coming to life, and he's really sort of prefiguring that, if you will. And the last thing I sort of want to say is, like, John Webster must have been front and center at this play every time it was played. There's so much echoes of the Duchess of Malfi in this.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's incredible, especially also the way that Bellimperia is behaving as well towards her lover. It's the same with the Duchess in Malfi.
Wooing of Antonio. Yes, that came into my mind while I was reading it.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And with Webster, of course, you get two brothers being evil, whereas you only get one in this. So it's sort of taking it and taking it a little bit further.
But can I also just ask about Balthazar? Does he really love her? Has he really fallen for Bellimperia? Or is it really just some kind of high-level marriage political game that he's playing? Or does he really have feeling? Because a couple of times he cries out of like, oh my God, my heart is broken if I can't have her.
Isn't that his ego, though?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, no, I think he's fallen for her. I really do.
I get this feeling there's a little something that's real in there.
I think he's fallen for her, but what I'm really interested in is the way that the play is developing the idea of, him being a prisoner, but also a prisoner, in courtly love, the idea of the man being like the slave to the woman, and he's her slave, he's enslaved, he's enthralled by her. And I think it's just fascinating. And in this scene, you get a sense that he is really imprisoned, even, he's above listening in, and yet he's not kind of part of the action. So in so many ways, he's kind of a slave to her, but he's also a political prisoner. And I think that's fascinating.
Ooh, lots of good thoughts here. I'm really liking that. Okay, well then I think we go to a bit more wider. The canvas opens out a little bit, possibly just to break up the action that's this little plot strand that Act 2 has really run with. We're going to go back to the court, and the King of Spain comes in with the Portuguese ambassador, Don Cyprian, the Duke of Castile, nobles and attendants, and other supernumeraries. Third and fourth codpiece are also available.
Brother of Castile, to the prince's love, what says your daughter, Bellimperia?
Although she coy it as becomes her kind, and yet dissemble that she loves the prince, I doubt not, but she will stoop in time And were she froward, which she will not be, yet herein shall she follow my advice, which is to love him, or forgo my love.
Then Lord Ambassador of Portugal, advise thy king to make this marriage up, for strengthening of our late confirmed league. I know no better means to make us friends. Her dowry shall be large and liberal, besides that she is daughter and half heir to our brother here, Don Cyprian, that shall enjoy the moiety of his land. I'll grace her marriage with an uncle's gift. And this is it. In case the match go forward, the tribute which you pay shall be released, and if by Balthazar she have a son, he shall enjoy the kingdom after us.
I'll make the motion to my sovereign liege and work it if my counsel may prevail.
Do so, my lord, and if he give consent, I hope his presence here will honour us in celebration of the nuptial day, and let himself determine of the time.
Wilt please, your grace, command me aught beside?
Commend me to the king, and so farewell. But where's Prince Balthazar to take his leave?
That is performed already, my good lord.
Amongst the rest of what you have in charge, the prince's ransom must not be forgot. That's none of mine, but his that took him prisoner. Well, his forwardness deserves reward. It was Horatio, our knight marshal's son.
Between us, there's a price already pitched, and shall be sent with all convenient speed.
And once again, farewell, my lord.
Farewell, my lord of Castile, and the rest.
Now, brother, you must take some little pains to win fair Bellimperia from her will. Young virgins must be ruled by their friends. The prince is amiable and loves her well. If she neglect him and forego his love, she both will wrong her own estate and ours. Therefore, whilst I do entertain the prince with greatest pleasure that our court affords, endeavour you to win your daughter's thought. If she give back, all this will come to naught.
Oh, we were just discussing this. Yeah, it's all a setup. It's all being worked from behind the scenes. I found it really interesting when asked about, where's Prince Balthazar to take his leave, and the ambassador sort of shiftedly says, oh, it's performed. It's fine. We did that earlier, and I'm sort of wondering, does the ambassador know something about what's going on, or is he just being diplomatic? I wonder how far information has travelled in this court. That even though it's a different setting and it's breaking up the action, it's still following exactly the same plot point. And I really like that, actually. Just doing it in a different context and placing it in a different place. Thoughts briefly about this scene? There are none. Then we will crack on as the plot continues. And I'm sure it's all going to go wonderfully well as we rejoin Horatio, Bellimperia, and after I speak as Pedringano, I will exit. So I'll just prefigure a stage direction I won't read. So enter Horatio, Bellimperia, and me in the background.
Now that the night begins with sable wings to overcloud the brightness of the sun, and that in darkness pleasures may be done. Come, Bellimperia, let us to the bower, and there in safety pass a pleasant hour.
I follow thee, my love, and will not back, although my fainting heart controls my soul.
Why make you doubt of Pedringano's faith?
No, he's as trusty as my second self. Go, Pedringano, watch without the gate, and let us know if any make approach.
Well, instead of watching, I'll deserve more gold by fetching Don Lorenzo to this match.
What means, my love?
I know not what myself, and yet my heart foretells me some mischance.
Sweet, say not so. Fair fortune is our friend, and heavens have shut up day to pleasure us. The stars, thou seest, hold back their twinkling shine, and Luna hides herself to pleasure us.
Thou hast prevailed. I'll conquer my misdoubt, and in thy love and counsel drown my fear. I fear no more. Love now is all my thoughts. Why sit we not? For pleasure asketh ease.
The more thou sits within these leafy bowers, the more will Flora deck it with her flowers.
Aye, but if Flora spy Horatio here, her jealous eye will think I sit too near.
Hark, madam, how the birds record by night, for joy that Bellimperia sits in sight.
No, Cupid counterfeits the nightingale to frame sweet music to Horatio's tale.
If Cupid sing, then Venus is not far. Aye, thou art Venus, or some fairer star.
If I be Venus, thou must needs be Mars, and where Mars reigneth, there must need be wars.
Then thus begin our wars. Put forth thy hand, that it may combat with my ruder hands.
Set forth thy foot to try the push of mine.
But first my looks shall combat against thine.
Toward thyself I dart this kiss at thee.
Thus I retort the dart thou threwst at me.
Nay then, to gain the glory of the field, my twining arms shall yoke and make thee yield.
Nay, then my arms are large and strong withal. Thus elms by vines are compassed till they fall.
Oh, let me go, for in my troubled eyes now mayst thou read that life in passion dies.
Oh, stay a while, and I will die with thee. So shall thou yield, and yet have conquered me.
Who's there? Pedringano? We are betrayed!
And here enter Lorenzo, Balthazar, Cerberine, and Pedringano disguised.
My lord, away with her. Take her aside. Oh, sir, forbear. Your valour is already tried. Quickly dispatch, my masters.
And they hang him in the arbour.
What? Will you murder me?
Aye, thus and thus. These are the fruits of love.
They
Oh,
stab
save-
him.
Oh, save his life, and let me die for him. Oh, save him, brother, save him, Balthazar. I loved Horatio, but he loved not me.
But Balthazar loves Bellimperia.
Though his life was still ambitious, proud, yet he is at the highest, now he is dead.
Murder! Murder! Help! Hieronimo! Help!
Come, stop her mouth. Away with her.
Exeunt, leaving Horatio still hanging. Okay, there's lots of really interesting things there.
That escalated quickly.
It did. It had been presaged, though. It's really interesting that they come in and Horatio suddenly he's all for it. First sign of life from Horatio here, and it's Bellimperia has this premonition that things are not going to go well, and is has to be wooed. And we were talking about Ruth was talking about sort of courtly love and things earlier, and I'm just thinking about the way this is put forward as a battle between the two. Does that have a sort of resonance there as well? That's a thought that came from your thought, as it were.
No, very much so. I mean, this reminds me of Chaucer's Knight's Tale, in fact, knights being kind of hopelessly in love with somebody and kind of being prevented from loving her. It's, and very much the whole idea of the, tournaments and knightly fighting. Yeah.
I think there's also the question of how far is her reluctance genuine, how far is it contrived? I'm almost reminded of the "Have we but world enough and time? This coyness lady were no crime."
Is she giving chase, and he's expected to follow? And has she figured out that's the way to get Horatio interested?
Yes. Yeah, I was always taught the way to do it is to run away slowly.
Yes. There's the description of the kissing as well. You know, I dart, she darts, and he does a retort that seems to presumably be more passionate, as it were.
I think I don't know, I get the impression she's more switched on than he is.
Yeah.
That, like, she's aware that there's something not quite right. Maybe she's heard a noise. Maybe there's I don't know, maybe the potted palms twitch or something. I don't know. I get the impression that she's maybe not, because you're right, she's done all the running and now she's like, oh no, wait, something's not quite right. And she's right though, isn't she?
Mm.
Well, premonitions always are in fiction, aren't they?
Yeah. And it's also the moment they go for Horatio. You know, she's going, save him. You know, I loved Horatio, but he loved not me. That's a fascinating sort of thing to throw out there. You know, it might work better if is she thinking that they are trying to save her honor or something? Is that what's in her mind, or I find that a really interesting line.
Is that not? Oh, is that not two separate thoughts within one sentence? Like, oh, save him, brother, save him, Balthazar. I loved Horatio, but I loved Horatio is one fact, and then, but he loved not me. Does that not refer to Balthazar from the line before? Like, you don't love me.
Oh.
Oh.
I mean, I've seen scans that way.
No, I have seen sentence constructions like that, but I don't know. My mind's gone blank. I can't think where. But it's like, I got the impression that she was that was almost like she was condemning Balthazar with that line. But it is a bit of a twisted, tangled interpretation. Yeah.
I mean, I think she thinks she's safe because she is a valuable property. Nobody's going to hang her. So she has to save Horatio. So by saying that Horatio doesn't love her, she's to save his life.
Right, so he hasn't actually done the deed, so he's innocent.
That was my thinking.
Not only that, but he didn't intend to do the deed. This was all her fault. I was chasing him, but I was getting nowhere.
Yeah.
So you don't need to hang him.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting interpretation. Yeah.
That makes far more sense.
Okay, we are coming to the section, or the first of the sections that this play is moderately well known for. Hieronimo, you are up. And we will run this. Now, I should point out to the listeners at home that we are not doing the additions. We are doing the text as it appears in 1592. So there are some later bits added in 1602 that we're not doing as part of this sequence. So we're going with the earliest interpretation of the text that we have. So enter Hieronimo in his shirt, presumably carrying a sword and torch and various properties.
What outcries pluck me from my naked bed and chill my throbbing heart with trembling fear, which never danger yet could daunt before. Who calls Hieronimo? Speak, here I am. I did not slumber, and therefore 'twas no dream. No, it was some woman cried for help, and here within this garden did she cry, and in this garden must I rescue her. But stay, what murderous spectacle is this? A man hanged up and all the murderers gone, and in my bower to lay the guilt on me? This place was made for pleasure, not for death.
He cuts him down.
These garments that he wears I oft have seen. Alas, it is Horatio, my sweet son. Oh, no, but he that whilom was my son. Oh, was it thou that calledst me from my bed? Oh, speak, if any spark of life remain, I am thy father, who hath slain my son. What savage monster not of humankind hath here been glutted with thy harmless blood, and left thy bloody corpse dishonoured here? For me, amidst these dark and deathful shades, to drown thee with an ocean of my tears. O heavens, why made you night to cover sin? By day this deed of darkness had been. O earth, why didst thou not in time devour the vile profaner of this sacred bower? O poor Horatio, what hadst thou misdone to lease thy life, ere life was new begun? O wicked butcher, whatsoe'er thou wert, how couldst thou strangle virtue and desert? Ay me, most wretched, that have lost my joy in leasing my Horatio, my sweet boy.
Enter Isabella.
My husband's absence makes my heart to throb. Hieronimo!
Here, Isabella, help me to lament, for sighs are stopped, and all my tears are spent.
What world of grief, my son Horatio! Oh, where's the author of this endless woe?
To know the author were some ease of grief, for in revenge my heart would find relief.
Then is he gone? And is my son gone too? Oh, gush out tears, fountains and floods of tears. Blow sighs and raise an everlasting storm, for outrage fits our cursed wretchedness.
Sweet, lovely rose, ill plucked before thy time. Fair, worthy son, not conquered, but betrayed. I'll kiss thee now, for words with tears are stayed.
And I'll close up the glasses of his sight, once these eyes were only my delight.
Seest thou this handkerchief, besmeared with blood? It shall not from me till I take revenge. Seest thou those wounds that yet are bleeding fresh? I'll not entomb them till I have revenge. Then will I joy amidst my discontent. Till then, my sorrow never shall be spent.
The heavens are just, murder cannot be hid. Time is the author both of truth and right, and time will bring this treachery to light.
Meanwhile, good Isabella, cease thy plaints, or at the least dissemble them a while. So shall we sooner find the practice out, and learn by whom all this was brought about. Come, Isabel, now let us take him up.
And they take him up.
And bear him in from out this cursed place. I'll say his dirge, singing fits not this case. O aliquis mihi, quas pulchrum vere ducat erbas.
Hieronimo sets his breast unto his sword.
Misciat et nostro detur medicina dolori, aut si qui faciunt anoram oblivia, succus praebat, ipse metam magnum quaecunque per orbam, gramina sol pulchras effert in lumines horas, ipse bibam quicquid meditatur saga veneni, quicquid et herbarum qui vi caecinenia nectit, omnia perpetiar lethum quoque, dum semel omnis noster in extincto moriatur pectora sensus, ergo tuos oculos nunquam mea vita videbo, et tua perpetuus sepelivit lumina somnus, e moriar tecum sic juvat ire sub umbras, atamen absistam properator cedere letto, ne mortem vindicta tuam tar nulla sequatur.
Here he throws the sword from him and bears the body away. And it's a massive chunk of Latin,
Wow.
broadly speaking, talking about preparing herbs to relieve their suffering, to kill themselves, saying that they'll never see their son again, and finally saying that they won't die now because they will get revenge first. That's a very rough outline of what sort of was said there, but I don't think it matters, and I think you did very well, by the way. So
yeah,
absolutely.
Very well
that
done,
was amazing.
William.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's actually I think as a wall of Latin coming at the audience, it has it just lets you emote in a way that a speech about being sad is possibly harder to do, because even though you'd need to know what you're saying, you can let the force of what to most of the audience would be a foreign language carry that, and I think that's where the power of that possibly lies. Can we assume the handkerchief is the scarf referenced earlier?
Oh yes.
Oh
I hadn't
yes,
thought
of
about
course.
that, but yes.
I have to answer the door.
Yeah, we've lost William. Though, of course, I thought he gave her that, but then maybe it got confused. I thought it was that way around.
No,
she gave him the glove. Or...
She gave him the glove, but no, what she did was she told him to keep the scarf.
Yeah.
As from Andreas and from herself.
Right. So yes. So it seems that So this is now a bloodied token that his father's taken.
Anyone trying
so
to do a
ask the
DNA
question,
sequencing?
Yeah, I was going to ask the question that Sarah asked earlier. Who is Hieronimo before? And now, more importantly, who is Hieronimo now? Because, we have this trauma has now occurred to Hieronimo and his wife Isabella. And this scene is about twice as long in with the additional passages. And so the question about what tone we go with Horatio here beforehand is a question of how much sympathy we therefore elicit from him now. If he was a less pompous figure earlier, would we feel as much for him in this situation? That's a question for the room.
Do you mean Hieronimo by that?
Hieronimo, yes.
All right.
Sarah. Sorry, I saw Sarah.
Yeah. I personally, this is my own personal taste, but I personally feel that if he's like this quite jovial, jolly, maybe slightly pompous, maybe slightly comic figure beforehand, I think that makes this worse. I think it makes it more affecting, because he's not Tamburlaine, he's not one of Tamburlaine's generals. He's not this sort of big swaggery soldier dude. He's just this sort of, jolly chap who adores his son, clearly, and maybe is a bit ridiculous. But then his grief is even more, it cuts right through you, I think, if he has been set up as this slightly low or comic character beforehand. It's far more affecting than if you had some noble prince doing it, I think. Personally.
Alan, sorry, are we cutting to you?
Yeah, the thing that got me confused, which isn't directly relevant to the script, but the stage direction at the end of that scene seems to be lacking an object. Here he throws it from him.
Yeah, it's clear.
Is it his sword?
It's his sword.
Yeah. Yeah, I think every later editor said it's the sword, and it seems he's using the sword to make this semi-oath in Latin, and then he casts it aside. I think that's the logic of it.
Yeah, I mean it's just slightly unclear the way it's written.
Yeah. It's a sad scene. We've lost one of our principal characters. We want an emotional impact. Any other thoughts?
The Latin makes him sound like a priest. It's almost like, incantatory, as if he's, speaking the words of the mass or something like that. I actually wonder what the religious implications are here, thinking about, Catholicism and Protestantism. I don't know the play well enough to pronounce on that, but there certainly seems to be some element of that going on here.
I think that seems very logical. It's according to a note I see here, that it seems to be a more classical than in dimension than it is Christian. But that doesn't mean that the flavour of it isn't. It doesn't speak to it would speak to the time of the Latin Mass and Catholicism.
I'm just wondering, in fact, whether it's not the religious side of it, but it's Latin as a ceremonial language, which people would have been used to through the Latin Mass. Just makes it sound more impressive.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yes, I'm not getting much of a sense of religion or religious dispute. I mean, I pick up very, very little ostensible Christianity coming out of this. And revenge, of course, is very un-Christian. It didn't mean that the Christians didn't practice it, but it doesn't seem to me that we've got that much religion here.
And most of the references seem to be to Elysian Fields and the Roman gods and all of that. So yeah.
And Charon.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another bridging passage with Andrea and revenge. So let's briefly look at that. We've lost the video feed of William. I'm assuming you're still there.
Yeah, I'm still here. A bit of my internet connection's been going wonky.
Okie dokie. So, Andrea and revenge, please.
Brought'st thou me hither to increase my pain? I looked that Balthazar should have been slain, but 'tis my friend Horatio that's slain. And they abuse fell Bellimperia, on whom I doted more than all the world, because she loved me more than all the world.
Thou talk'st of harvest when the corn is green. The end is crown of every work well done. The sickle comes not till the corn be ripe. Be still, and ere I lead thee from this place, I'll show thee Balthazar in heavy case.
Yes, because it's. I think the chorus is. Andrea's making a good point. You killed the wrong person.
Yeah.
This is not what the trailer said this film was going to be. What's going on? What's going on?
Wait for it. Wait for it.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting because the nice thing about this chorus is it doesn't feel like it's imposing. It is just popping in just to remind us of things, but it's not breaking up the action. And it's not making us aware of time, as sometimes a longer chorus can do, of going, right, you're now 2/3 of the way through the play. We've just passed the second act. And the thing is, because we only have 4 acts of this play, because we're about to go into Act 3, which is effectively Act 3 and 4. And there is no chorus until the end of Act 3. So it looks like possibly there was another chorus coming up. But they felt, as I sometimes feel, that it's one too many. It's one too many. It breaks the flow of the action of what's coming next. So there might have been more Andrea and revenge that does not appear. But I might be leading before we reach it. Any thoughts about the Andrea and revenge?
I'm just wondering, in fact, whether they are there almost as a front of tabs interlude to cover a scene change.
I don't think it's structural in that way. Everybody's taking things on and off enough. I mean, you're right. There is a banquet and there is an arbor here, so there might be. I believe in some modern productions they have used revenge as a figure that is popping in and out of everywhere, and has almost achieved that sort of effect and helped cover some of the doubling. But no, I think that's a fair point. It could be useful in that way. It's not very long though.
No, I mean it's really moving the action along, and it's also, as we are doing right now, it's providing a commentary on what's happened.
We, it's the Muppets in the box moment, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
I want to see the Muppets version of the Spanish tragedy.
Wait, didn't we read that?
Yeah, Bellimperia as Miss Piggy. There's an
Yes.
interesting thought.
Yes. Would Hieronimo be Kermit, or would it be Fozzie Bear? I'm feeling Fozzie.
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 Yeah.
Mm.
Kermit would be Horatio.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you're right.
Oh.
Okay, before we go too far down this tangent, let's save that for another day. Okay, let's pile into Act 3 before we go into extra time, see how far we get. So, Act 3-1, we are back in Portugal. Enter the Viceroy of Portugal, nobles Villuppo.
Fortunate condition of kings, seated amid so many helpless doubts. First we are placed upon extremest height, and oft supplanted with exceeding hate, but ever subject for wheel of chance. And at our highest never joy we so, as we both doubt and dread our overthrow. So striveth not the waves with sundry winds, as fortune toileth in the affairs of kings, that would be feared, yet fear to be beloved. So fear or loved kings is flattery. For instance, lordings, look upon your king, by hate deprived of his dearest son, the only hope of our successive line.
I had not thought that Alexandro's heart had been envenomed with such extreme hate. But now I see that words have several works, and there's no credit in the countenance.
No, for my lord, had you beheld the train the feigned love had coloured in his looks, when he in camp consorted Balthazar, far more inconstant had you thought the sun, that hourly coast the centre of the earth, than Alexandro's purpose to the prince.
No more, Villuppo. Thou hast said enough, and with thy word thou slayest our wounded thoughts. No, nor shall I longer dally with the world, procrastinating Alexandro's death. Go, some of you, and fetch the traitor forth, that as he is condemned, he may die.
And enter Alexandro with a nobleman and halberdiers.
In such extremes will naught but patience serve.
But in extremes, what patience shall I use? Nor discontents it me to lead the world, with whom there nothing can prevail but wrong.
Yet hope the best.
'Tis heaven, 'tis heaven is my hope. As for the earth, it is too much in fact to yield me hope of any of her mould.
Why linger ye? Bring forth that daring fiend, let him die for his accursed deed.
Not that I fear the extremity of death, for nobles cannot stoop to servile fear. Do I, O king, thus discontented live? But this, oh, this torments my labouring soul, that thus I die suspected of a sin, whereof, as heavens have known my secret thoughts, so am I free from this suggestion.
No more, I say. To the tortures. When? Bind him, and burn his body in those flames.
They bind him to the stake.
But shall those unquenched fires of Phlegethon prepared for his soul.
My guiltless death will be avenged on thee, Villuppo, that hath maliced thus. Oh, for thy meed hath falsely me accused.
Nay, Alexandro, if thou menace me, I'll lend a hand to send thee to the lake, where those thy words shall perish with thy works. Injurious traitor, monstrous homicide.
But yet, at the last minute, enter Ambassador.
Stay! Hold a while! And here, with pardon of his majesty, lay hands upon Villuppo.
Ambassador, what news have urged this sudden entrance?
Know, sovereign lord, that Balthazar doth live.
What sayest thou? Liveth Balthazar, our son?
Your highness son lord Balthazar doth live, and well entreated in the court of Spain, humbly commends him to your majesty. These eyes beheld, and these my followers, with these the letters of the king commends,
Gives him letters.
are happy witnesses of his highness's health.
And the Viceroy looks on the letter and proceeds.
My son of Lynn, your tribute is received, peace is made, and we are satisfied. The rest resolve upon as things proposed for both our honours and thy benefit.
These are His Highness' further articles.
And he gives him some more letters.
Cursed wretch, to intimate these ills against the life and reputation of noble Alexandro. Come, my lord, unbind him. Let him unbind thee, that is bound to death, to make acquittal for thy discontent.
They unbind him.
Dread Lord, in kindness you could do no less upon report of such a damned fact. But thus we see our innocence has saved the hopeless life which thou, Villuppo, sought by thy suggestions to have massacred.
Say, false Villuppo, wherefore didst thou thus falsely betray Lord Alexandro's life? Him. Thou knowest that no unkindness else, but even the slaughter of our dearest son, could once have moved us to have misconceived.
Say, treacherous Villuppo, tell the king wherein hath Alexandro used thee ill?
Rent with remembrance of so foul a deed, my guilty soul submits me to thy doom. For not for Alexandro's injuries, but for reward and hope to be preferred, thus have I shamelessly hazarded his life.
Which villain shall be ransomed with thy death, but not so mean a torment as we here devised for him who, thou saidst, slew our son, with the bitterest torments and extremes that may be yet invented for thine end.
Alexandro seems to entreat.
Entreat me not. Go, take the traitor hence.
Exit Villuppo.
And Alexandro, let us honour thee with public notice of thy loyalty. To end those things articulated here by our great lord, the mighty king of Spain, we with our council will deliberate. Come, Alexandro, keep us company.
Did anyone think Alexandro was going to make it out of this play alive?
Well, we haven't finished the play yet.
We haven't. But last time we weren't thinking he was going to make it.
I was actually thinking to myself, I was already there. I was thinking, oh man, how did they do the burning on the stake thing on stage? And I was looking forward to seeing what was going to, stage directions or whatever. And then, oh no, didn't.
I didn't.
It's another tease, isn't it?
Yeah. It's quite a dramatic moment, isn't it? You know, they're gonna burn him to death. But Wormtongue got his comeuppance in the end. Gandalf arrives just in time and casts him out.
Yes, I must admit I did almost see the ambassador in the uniform of the US cavalry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just in time. Wait, I have letters. It's a really interesting subplot because, of course, there is that element of going, well, what does this connect? And we may not have an answer to this yet because we've only read so far into the play of, how is this connecting with the Spanish side of the plot? And are we, is it just to break up the action, or is there something more either thematically or in the wider plot sense? And we don't need answers to that yet. We're not, I think, far enough. But it's possibly that should be going on in the mind of the audience. Why are we here? What is this adding?
Courts are dangerous places.
They are indeed. Intrigue everywhere. Okay. Are we content to do our final thing before we go into extra time? Just about. Okay, Hieronimo, you're up for 3-2. Another long speech and another edition we're not doing.
Oh, eyes. No eyes but fountains fraught with tears. Oh, life. No life but lively form of death. Oh, world. No world but mass of public wrongs, confused and filled with murder and misdeeds. Oh, sacred heavens! if this unhallowed deed, if this inhuman and barbarous attempt, if this incomparable murder thus of mine, but now no more my son, shall unrevealed and unrevenged pass, how should we term your dealings to be just, if you unjustly deal with those that in your justice trust? The night, sad secretary to my moans, with direful visions wakes my vexed soul, and with the wounds of my distressful son solicits me for notice of his death. The ugly fiends do sally forth of hell, and frame my steps to unfrequented paths, and fear my heart with fierce inflamed thoughts. The cloudy day my discontents records, early begins to register my dreams and drive me forth to seek the murderer. Eyes, life, world, heavens, hell, night and day, see, search, show, send some man, some mean that may...
A letter falleth.
What's here? A letter? Tush, 'tis not so. A letter written to Hieronimo. For want of ink receive this bloody writ. Me hath my hapless brother hid from thee. Revenge thyself on Balthazar and him, for these were they that murdered thy son. Hieronimo revenge Horatio's death and better fare than Bellimperia doth. What means this unexpected miracle? My son slain by Lorenzo and the prince? What cause had they Horatio to malign? Or what might move thee, Bellimperia, to accuse thy brother, had he been the mean? Hieronimo, beware. Thou art betrayed, and to entrap thy life this train is laid. Advise thee, therefore, be not credulous. This is devised to endanger thee, that thou by this Lorenzo shouldst accuse, and he, for thy dishonour done, should draw thy life in question and thy name in hate. Dear was the life of my beloved son, and of his death behooved me be revenged. Then hazard not thine own, Hieronimo, but live to effect thy resolution. I therefore will by circumstances try what I can gather to confirm this writ, and hearkening near the Duke of Castile's house, close, if I can, with Bellimperia, to listen more, but nothing to bewray.
Enter Pedringano.
Now, Pedringano.
How, Hieronimo?
Where's thy lady?
I know not. Here's my lord, and enter Lorenzo.
Sorry, was that a pause you caused?
No,
or...
just breaking up my stage direction from my character speaking.
How now? Who's this? Hieronimo?
My lord.
Oh, he asketh for my lady Bellimperia.
What to do, Hieronimo? The Duke, my father, hath, upon some disgrace, a while removed her hence. But if it be aught I may inform her of, tell me, Hieronimo, and I'll let her know it.
Nay, my lord, I thank you. It shall not need. I had a suit unto her, but too late, and her disgrace makes me unfortunate.
Why so, Hieronimo? Use me.
Oh, no, my lord, I dare not. It must not be. I humbly thank your lordship.
Why then, farewell.
My grief no heart, my thoughts no tongue can tell.
And exit Hieronimo.
Come hither. Pedringano, seest thou this?
My lord, I see it, and I suspect it too.
This is that damned villain Cerberine that hath, I fear, revealed Horatio's death.
Oh, my lord, he could not, 'twas so lately done, and since he hath not left my company.
Admit he have not, his condition such, as fear or flattering words may make him false. I know his humour, and therefore therewith repent, that e'er I used him in this enterprise. But, Pedringano, to prevent the worst, because I know thee secret as my soul, here For further satisfaction, take thou this,
And gives gold.
and hearken to me. Thus it is devised. This night thou must, and prithee, so resolve, meet Cerberine at St. Luigi's Park. Thou know'st 'tis hard hit behind the house. Here, take thy stand, and see thou strike him sure, for die he must, if we do mean to live.
Oh, but how shall Cerberine be there, my lord?
Let me alone. I'll send him to meet the prince and me, where thou must do this deed.
It shall be done, my lord, it shall be done, and I'll go arm myself to meet him there.
When things shall alter, as I hope they will, then shalt thou mount for this. Thou knowest my mind.
And exit Pedringano. Someone, whoever wants to read the page, because I don't think I've given the part out to anyone. Tamara, you look up for being a page. Go, Lorenzo.
Che Hilaron.
Enter
My
page.
lord? My lord?
Go, sirrah, to Cerberin, and bid him forthwith meet the prince and me at St. Luigi's Park, behind the house, this evening, boy.
I go, my lord.
But, sirrah, let the hour be 8 o'clock. Bid him not fail.
I fly, my lord.
Exit page.
Now, to confirm the complot thou hast cast, of all these practices, I'll spread the watch, upon precise commandment from the king, strongly to guard the place where Pedringano this night shall murder hapless Cerberine. Thus must we work that will avoid distrust. Thus must we practice to prevent mishap. And thus, one ill another must expulse. This sly inquiry of Hieronimo, for Bellimperia breeds suspicion, and this suspicion bodes a further ill. As for myself, I know my secret fault, and so do they. But I have dealt for them, they that for coin their souls endangered, to save my life, for coin shall venture theirs. And better it's that base companions die, than by their life to hazard out our good haps. Nor shall they live, for me to fear their faith. I'll trust myself. Myself shall be my friend, for die they shall, and slaves are ordained to no other end.
And thus we reach the end of the scene. Lots of things occur here. Cerberine, I don't think he has actually had a name check. I mean, he's been on.
Right.
He was physically there at the murder, but I don't think anyone's mentioned his name. And that's,
No, I think he's simply third murderer.
yeah, and so that's interesting. As a plot device of sending someone to murder somebody else, we had a ghost of that in part 1. And I wonder whether that because that felt like an addition, a burlesque addition to part 1. So it feels like maybe this is that which gets burlesqued in Hieronimo, this little subplot that's there as they try to have their cake and eat it. That feels very, very plausible. Calling for justice, Hieronimo. I'm just going to flag that up as something that might be important as we go. You're an authority figure and you want justice. But luckily, you've got a snitch somewhere who's going to send you some information written in blood. So
is that a stage direction in the play? Red ink.
Yeah. I don't think actually the red is. Yes, there is a red ink. Yes, reference slightly further down. Yes, which I did not read out. I apologise. Yeah, it's So that's presumably from Bellimperia, from her hidden tower, damsel in distress style, but using her wits to send messages. Am I making that up, or does that seem to be the impression of what's going on?
Well, I think that's what he's assuming that that's where it's from, but there's so many possible betrayers out there. You've got all of these sort of low-life characters who are all basically looking after number one. The betrayal could be coming from almost anyone other than the principals.
Would she, if it was Bellimperia, would she do it in such a covert way?
Well, she's trapped.
Well, Yeah, but she's managed to, if it was her, she's managed to get a note out somehow. Would she, if she's managed to get a note out, would she not actually write to him as Bellimperia and say, look, this has happened to your son, I was there? You know, because she's the king's niece and she's quite noble. Would she do it in such a cloak and dagger way?
It might make her a potential witness to be killed in a more
True.
active sense. They might, before she can actually physically say it.
The stage direction actually says a letter falleth. So he's walking next to her house and suddenly the letter falls down from above. Is that?
It seems to be. It seems to be. There isn't much information. It seems to be inferred. But yes, calling for justice, Hieronimo trying to figure out what he wants to do next, because of course he doesn't really know what's going on. And then Lorenzo comes in and it's all suspicious-y. Everything's fine here. No, you can't come into the house. No one's here. This place is fine.
Nothing to look at here, Gov.
Yeah. Which I think reinforces that. And then we go into this murder plot. It's been a busy old act and a bit, you know. It's really picked up the pace and the action. Overall thoughts. Pretty much everyone here has, you know, we've covered pretty much most of this opening third of the play. A couple of you have missed the opening in-breath, but I don't think actually you've missed anything particularly vital. General thoughts in the room before we close the session.
Well, we're almost exactly at the midway point of this, aren't we?
Yeah, in that area. Yeah, so there's probably a little bit more to go before, or maybe there isn't. No, maybe there isn't. Yeah,
33 out of 76.
Yeah. So, yeah, what is this play? What are your feelings about it as an entertainment? You know, what would you do with it to stage it beyond turn them all into Muppets?
But the big decision is what was Hieronimo? What is his status? What is his rank? What do they mean by knight marshal? I mean, these are the questions that the director is really going to have to sort out. I'm not entirely sure that it matters what he decides, or she decides, but something has to be decided.
Tom, as a newbie, how's it coming across to you?
I mean, partly it's just a very tricky play, and there's lots of characters sort of zipping in and out with, and obviously at this sort of early point of the stage, it's not quite clear sort of where all of it's falling. But what I quite like about it is, yes, for the sort of the revenge and Andrea on the balcony. As at the moment, I'd be thinking quite visually of how exactly to represent Spain, Portugal, the kind of the fault lines between them. And obviously, if you're staging it somewhere that has that balcony, then that does a lot of the job. That does quite a bit of the job for you. But I think it would be trying to find a way to make it clear to the audience where the family groupings are that seem in a way more important than the nationalities of them. But we sort of see this blending together, this attempt to blend together Spain and Portugal by the kings. The other thing is obviously what's going on with Bellimperia. And although she's not on stage very often, I'm wondering whether she has a bit more presence in the background than we're actually seeing in the script. Is she part of the kind of the court scenes a bit more than her stage direction necessarily imply? With sort of agency in the play. That may be coming, but at the moment she sort of She's not quite stage managing it, but I'm wondering if that's something that's going to become a bit more apparent later on.
Yeah, I mean, I think thinking about the visual aspect, just because people aren't saying things doesn't mean they don't have an impact as well. What are they? What are their reactions? What's going on around the scenes? Especially with the women of these plays, where they don't tend to have as much dialogue, but they may be still on stage and doing things. That's a really good point. I think you're right. Is that thing when you read it off the page? I always forget where that. Oh yes, no, we're in Portugal now. Whether that subplot is how that folds in. Ruth, this is your first time with us. Any thoughts from a distance, as it were?
Well, I think I mean, we've pointed this out, but I've struggled a bit to kind of locate the tone, because tonally it has felt as if it's kind of all over the place. But now I'm getting much more sense of, particularly with Hieronimo's, long speech over the death of his son and so on. That was very kind of quite powerful. And I'm getting more sense. I think the audience would have really enjoyed the whole the complexity of the plot, the revenge motifs, the fairly short scenes, which mean that you keep getting lots and lots of changes of things coming in. And actually, I think the tone, the different tones work. And I think that there is comedy there, kind of dark comedy, but there's also quite a lot of seriousness and very swift moving scenes. And I like those bits where you suddenly land on Andrea and revenge, and then it becomes sort of more allegorical, and I think that would be interesting to stage that falling letter as well. Where is that? Who sent that? Where is it falling from? And there's a lot of exciting things going on.
Okay, final thoughts from the rest of the room. Helen, you got anything to close on?
Nothing but questions.
Questions are good. Questions are good.
Oh, you want my questions?
Oh, if you've got questions, then
no. I mean, it's not a play I know at all. It turns out. I thought I did, but it turns out I don't. So I'm very puzzled by matters of status. Which mattered quite a lot. I think I might do a little research before tomorrow.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
Alan, any last thoughts?
No, I think it's developing quite nicely, and it is certainly fleshing out with a bit more meat on the bones. How the heck
momentum.
How the heck it all turns out, other than as a stage strewn with corpses, I'm not quite sure.
Well, only time will tell. Tamara, any new last thoughts?
I haven't got any, except that I'm really looking forward to seeing whether I'm right in my suspicion that the courts are kind of mirroring each other more closely than we might think. But having, not read the Spanish tragedy until we started doing it, I don't know.
Yep. Lovely. Sarah, anything?
I'm just really enjoying it. I find Hieronimo I said it earlier, but I find him a really affecting character. He's, for me, my director's head on. I've already made a choice about how I would cast him if I was directing this, and I see him really very much as like the everyman, who the audience really can relate to, because he's not noble in my version, in my head. He's not noble, and he's not as, he's in the court, but he's not as lofty as a prince, and he doesn't have that warlike swagger to him. I mean, he's slightly more comic, slightly more, lowly. But I think that just makes it so much more moving, and that speech that he has, that William did so well. I had a genuine lump in my throat when I was reading that, because it was just so moving. And yeah, for me, it's the fact that he's a slightly more human character that makes it more moving. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really enjoying it, and I find it more compelling as a tragedy because he's not, you know, a prince or a general or a great man of state.
Yeah. Talking of that, the man himself, William, how did you find these big speeches? Because, you know, did they feel big, or actually did you feel you got through them?
It felt very, very. Well, obviously, I've not read it before, so it's a cold reading, but it was a joy that it just kept on unfolding the whole time, and it was emotionally feeding you, you know. So it was really nice to have that. Finally, to have a character with whom you can identify, and I think I'm definitely in agreement with Tamara and Sarah, especially Tamara, that the two courts are the mirror images of what can go wrong. Absolutely, I'd completely forgotten about Alexandro and Villuppo, and you know, even that treacherous act that had happened when, you know, and yesterday I was completely in shock when that did happen, and now to have it suddenly brought back. So it was like, and I agree. I think that Hieronimo is the guy in the middle that the audience can identify with, and you know, I mean, even his son was also not the great he was also not that. He was the victim. He was set up to be the victim. So it's fascinating. I'm loving reading it and exploring it.
And I think what's really nice about this exercise is that with these afternoon sessions, we've been doing plays which people generally have heard of or may have seen or may have read, but haven't necessarily dug into. And the thing is, when you do these texts, is just there's always so much more to find the moment you start digging. But there's so much more than we're going to find here. And that's really, you know, that's what keeps a play alive, actually, is that when you can keep digging into it and finding different things or twisting something and seeing where it goes. So that makes me very, very positive about where we are. I'm going to wind everything up now because I need to archive. We'll go into some housekeeping in just a moment. But as I stop the recording, let's just say thank you for watching this recording on YouTube, and goodbye.
Bye.
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 Bye.